Camille, what happened to you?
He did this. He spilled soda on me.
Soda. Wait, these stains? Oh my God.
He hit me, Dorian. Oh my God, he hit you?
We have to go, now.
Sloane Whitaker covered her nose and stared at Camille Avery with pure disgust. I can't breathe the same air as this. The room feels dirtier every time she walks in. Camille straightened a napkin fold, silent and composed. Sloane's voice dropped, sharp and poisonous. You are crude, you are filthy, and you need to know your place. Camille met her eyes. The setup is ready, Miss Whitaker. Sloane snatched her soda and poured it down Camille's back. Now get out of my sight. The room fell dead silent, but Sloane had just made the biggest mistake of her career. The woman standing there, soaked in soda, was hiding something that would turn Sloane's world upside down before the night was over. Man, pouring a drink on her like that was a mistake. Let's get into it. The Harrogate Grand sat on the corner of Tryon Street in uptown Charlotte, North Carolina. 22 floors of polished marble, brass elevators, and crystal chandeliers that cost more than most people's houses. The kind of hotel where senators held fundraisers and chief executive officers signed deals over bourbon. It was owned by Harrogate Hospitality Group, a company with 43 properties across the country. And at the very top of that empire sat one man, the chairman of the board. But we will get to him later. Right now, let's talk about Camille Avery. Camille had a master's degree in hospitality management from Cornell. She could have walked into almost any executive office in the industry and landed a six-figure position before lunch. But she didn't. Instead, she applied for a part-time job as an event coordinator assistant at the Harrogate Grand. Entry level. Barely above the minimum wage. A staff polo and a name tag. Why? Because Camille believed something most people in her position would never even consider. She believed that if you want to lead an industry, you need to understand it from the floor up, not from a boardroom, not from a quarterly report, but from the sweat, the overtime, and the guests who snap their fingers at you like you are furniture. She wanted to feel it, all of it. Her husband supported the decision completely. He admired it, actually. He told her to take as long as she needed, learn everything, talk to everyone, and when she was ready, there would be a seat waiting for her at the top. So Camille showed up every morning. She drove a modest gray sedan. She wore no jewelry except her wedding band, which she kept on a chain tucked inside her shirt. She parked in the employee lot behind the dumpsters and walked through the service entrance like everyone else. Nobody knew. Not the front desk staff, not the valets, not the housekeepers she helped carry linens for when the elevator broke down, and definitely not Sloane Whitaker. Sloane was the regional banquet manager, blonde hair always pulled tight, heels clicking like a metronome down every hallway. She ran the banquet division like a small kingdom. To the guests, Sloane was charming, warm smile, firm handshake, the kind of woman who remembered your drink order and your spouse's birthday. To the staff, she was something else entirely. If you were white, Sloane was tough but professional. She pushed hard, but she respected your space. She said please. She said good job. If you were black or brown, the mask came off. It started small, a sigh when she assigned you a task, a look that lingered just a little too long. Then it escalated. Comments about your hair, about how you spoke, about whether you really understood the standard of the hotel, and if you complained, she had a favorite line she used on the general manager, Warren Phelps. They are just too sensitive. Warren managed the Harrogate Grand and wore khaki pants every single day, even on holidays. He kept a stress ball on his desk shaped like a golf ball, and he squeezed it whenever someone from Human Resources knocked on his door. He knew about Sloane. Of course he did. There were complaints, 4 formal ones, including 2 from employees who eventually quit. But Sloane delivered results. Her events ran on time. Her client retention rate was the highest in the region. And Warren did not like confrontation, so the complaints sat in a folder. The folder sat in a drawer, and the drawer stayed shut. Then there was Nia Ellis, a black junior server at the hotel. Nia was sharp, quiet, and observant. She noticed everything: which tables Sloane smiled at, which staff members Sloane ignored, and which ones Sloane destroyed. Naya had started keeping her phone nearby during shifts. Not to scroll, not to text, to record. She had not told anyone yet, not even Camille, but she had a folder on her phone labeled insurance, and it was growing. Tonight was the annual corporate gala, a Fortune 500 client, hundreds of guests, a six-figure contract, and every single person on this staff was about to collide in a way none of them expected. The banquet hall already smelled like stress: silver polish, starched tablecloths, and the sharp sting of industrial cleaner on marble floors. Staff moved between tables in quiet choreography, adjusting forks, aligning chairs, folding napkins into perfect fans. Camille was stationed at the far end of the hall working on centerpieces: white roses, eucalyptus stems, tall glass vases catching the light from the chandeliers above. She had arranged rows and rows of them, each one identical, each one measured to the inch. She was good at this. She knew she was good at this. Then Sloane walked in. The clicking of her heels hit the marble like a countdown. Every head in the room shifted slightly. Not to look. Nobody dared look directly. Just to track her, to know where she was, like animals sensing a predator entering the clearing. Sloane stopped in the center of the room. She scanned the tables with slow, deliberate eyes. Her clipboard was tucked under one arm. Her mouth was pressed into a thin line. She walked to one table a white server named Reed had set. Sloane picked up a wine glass, held it to the light, and set it back down. "Beautiful work, Reed. Spotless." Reed exhaled, nodded, and moved on. Then Sloane turned. She walked straight toward Camille's section. Identical setup. Same glasses, same silverware, same napkin fold. Camille had checked it twice. Sloane picked up a wine glass. She held it to the light the same way she had held Reed's. She turned it. Then she set it down hard enough to make the silverware rattle. "This is sloppy." Camille's hands stilled. "The glass has a smudge. The napkin fold is uneven. And these flowers." Sloane grabbed a rose from the vase and held it up like evidence in a courtroom. "This stem is crooked. Do you even care about quality, or is that just not something your people prioritize?" The words landed like a slap. Two servers nearby stopped what they were doing. One looked at the floor. The other bit her lip and walked away. Camille took a breath, slow and controlled. "I will redo the arrangement, Miss Whitaker. You will redo the entire table. And when you are done, I want you on ice duty. The kitchen needs 60 pounds hauled to the service bar. Ice duty. Manual labor." Camille had a coordinator title. She was supposed to be managing logistics for the event, not hauling bags of ice like a first-day temp. But she nodded. Then she started pulling apart the centerpiece she had carefully perfected. Sloane watched her for a moment, then turned on her heel and walked away. Her perfume hung in the air behind her, heavy, floral, and suffocating. Later, it got worse. Sloane had changed the seating chart. The original layout had already been finalized. Camille had organized it herself, cross-referencing the client's guest list, dietary restrictions, and very important guest preferences. Warren had signed off on it, but at some point, Sloane had walked into the office, pulled up the file on the shared computer, and rearranged half the tables. No note, no email, no explanation. Camille did not know until Warren called her into his office. He was sitting behind his desk, squeezing that golf ball stress toy. The blinds were half closed. The room smelled like cold coffee and carpet cleaner. "Camille, we have a problem." She stood in the doorway, still in her polo, still smelling faintly of silver polish. "The seating chart is wrong. Table assignments do not match the client's important guest list. If this does not get fixed soon, we are going to have a major issue tonight." Camille blinked. "Mr. Phelps, I finalized that chart. You approved it yourself." "Well, something changed, and your name is on the file. Because I created the original file, but someone edited it after me. If you check the revision history. The door opened behind her. Sloane walked in like she owned the room, which in many ways she did. Warren, I heard there is a seating issue. Her voice was silk, concerned, and helpful. Warren looked relieved. Yes, Camille's chart has errors. Major ones. Sloane tilted her head and looked at Camille the way someone looks at a child who broke a plate. Oh, Camille, sweetheart, did you mix up the tables again? Again, as if this had happened before. It had not. Ever. I did not mix up anything, Miss Whitaker. The file was edited after I saved it. Sloane let out a small laugh, light and dismissive. Camille, nobody else touches the seating charts. That is your responsibility. I should not have to double-check your work on top of everything else I'm managing today. She turned to Warren. I will fix it myself. It is fine. I just wish I did not have to keep cleaning up after her. Warren nodded. He did not ask about revision history. He did not check the file. He just squeezed his stress ball and said, Camille, let Sloane handle the chart. You go help the kitchen with setup. Kitchen setup. That meant washing trays, stacking plates, and staying out of sight. Camille looked at Warren. She looked at Sloane. She saw exactly what was happening. Two people who had decided she was the problem before she ever opened her mouth. She nodded. Yes, sir. Then she turned and walked out. In the hallway, Naya was waiting. She had a tray of water glasses in her hands, but her eyes were locked on Camille's face. I saw her do it, Naya whispered. I saw Sloane at the computer. She was editing the seating file. Camille stopped walking. You saw her. I was refilling the printer paper in the office. She did not notice me. She changed several tables, closed the file, and walked out. Camille closed her eyes. She let the air out slowly. Thank you, Naya. Camille, you need to report this. This is sabotage. I know what it is. Then why aren't you? Not yet. Naya stared at her. What do you mean, not yet? Camille opened her eyes. There was something in them that Naya had not seen before. Not anger, not sadness. Something quieter, something patient. I mean, not yet. She pulled her phone from her back pocket and stepped into the stairwell. The heavy fire door closed behind her with a metallic click. The air was cooler there. It smelled like concrete and recycled ventilation. She dialed. It rang. Dorian's voice came through low and warm, the kind of voice that filled a room even through a phone speaker. Hey. Hey, Camille said. She leaned against the wall, and her shoulders dropped for the first time all day. How is it going? She paused, then exhaled. It is getting worse. Tell me. She sabotaged my seating chart, blamed me in front of Warren. He did not even check. He just sent me to wash dishes. Silence on the other end. Not the empty kind. The kind that meant he was listening with his whole body. And earlier. She told the staff I contaminate the room by being in it. More silence. Then Dorian spoke, quiet and measured. Camille, I need you to hear me. Tonight, I am coming to the hotel. I know, the board inspection. Yes, but I need you to understand something. Whatever I see when I walk through those doors, I am not going to look away. Not tonight. Camille pressed the phone against her ear. She could hear him breathing, steady and certain. Just get through the rest of the shift, he said. Can you do that? She stood up straight and wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Yes, I can do that. That's my girl. She hung up. She stayed in the stairwell for a moment, then walked back out into the hallway, into the noise, into the chaos, and straight toward the kitchen. The day was still unfolding, and Sloane Whitaker had no idea what was coming. The kitchen was a furnace of noise and steam, pots clanging, burners hissing, the head chef barking orders in a voice that could cut through concrete. The air tasted like garlic, butter, and sweat. Camille stood at the industrial sink, scrubbing sheet trays with a steel wool pad. Hot water ran over her knuckles until they turned raw. Her polo was damp at the collar. Her back ached from standing. This was not her job. She knew it. Everyone in the kitchen knew it. But nobody said a word. She scrubbed. She stacked. She carried. Sloane appeared in the kitchen doorway. She did not step inside. She never stepped inside the kitchen. Too hot, too loud, too beneath her. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching Camille work like she was observing an animal at the zoo. "At least she is useful for something," Sloane said to no one in particular, but loud enough, always loud enough. A prep cook nearby kept his eyes on his cutting board. His knife moved faster. Sloane straightened and raised her voice. "Camille, when you are done playing dishwasher, I need you in the banquet hall. The stage setup is wrong. Podium is on the left. It should be on the right." Camille set down the tray and dried her hands on a towel already soaked through. She walked past Sloane without a word, through the service corridor and into the banquet hall. The podium was on the right, exactly where the client had requested it. Camille had confirmed the placement herself with the audiovisual team. She had the email on her phone. She stood there staring at it. Right side, correct position. Nothing wrong. Sloane walked in behind her, heels clicking. "Well, move it." "Miss Whitaker," the client requested the podium on the right. "I have the confirmation email. I do not care what email you have. I said move it to the left." But the client. Did I stutter? The words hit the air like a door slamming shut. Two servers setting tables nearby froze mid-motion. Sloane stepped closer, close enough for Camille to smell her perfume, that heavy, cloying floral that clung to everything like a warning. "Let me make this very clear, Camille. You do not think here. You do not decide here. You do what I tell you. Period. The fact that I have to repeat this tells me everything I need to know about what you are capable of." Camille held her gaze. Then she walked to the podium and began dragging it to the left side of the stage. Alone, it weighed at least 80 pounds. The wooden base scraped against the marble floor with a sound that made everyone wince. Sloane watched. She did not offer to help. She did not call anyone to assist. She just watched, one hand on her hip, head tilted slightly, the way someone watches a mule pull a cart. When Camille finished, she was breathing hard. A line of sweat ran down her temple. "Good," Sloane said. "Now go clean yourself up. You look disgusting. And for heaven's sake, stay out of sight when the guests start arriving. The last thing this event needs is you greeting people at the door." She turned and walked away. Her heels echoed through the hall like a metronome counting down. Camille stood beside the podium she had just moved. Her arms were shaking. Not from the weight, from everything else. The banquet hall was nearly ready. Tables gleamed under chandelier light. Ice sculptures glistened at the buffet station. The string quartet was setting up in the corner, tuning their instruments in soft, wandering notes. Camille was adjusting the microphone at the podium when Sloane came back. This time, she was not alone. 3 junior servers trailed behind her carrying final supplies. Sloane stopped at the center of the room and clapped her hands once. "Listen up, everyone. Final check. I want every glass polished, every napkin straight, every chair pushed in exactly 2 inches from the table edge. This is a 6-figure client. If anything goes wrong tonight, I will personally make sure the person responsible never works in this city again." Her eyes swept the room. Then they landed on Camille. "And Camille, you are on coat check." Coat check. A closet by the entrance, out of sight, out of the event, invisible. "Miss Whitaker, I am assigned to coordinate. You were assigned, past tense. I am reassigning you. Coat check, back corner. Do not come out unless someone asks for a jacket." Camille's lips pressed together. "Is there a problem?" Sloane's voice rose just enough to make sure everyone heard. "Because if you cannot handle hanging up coats, I really do not know what to do with you." Someone behind Camille let out a small breath. Naya, standing several tables away with a tray of champagne flutes. Her phone was in her apron pocket. The camera lens was facing outward. Camille shook her head slowly. "No problem, Miss Whitaker." "Wonderful. And Camille, smile. You are representing the hotel tonight. Try not to scare anyone." Sloane laughed at her own words, a short, brittle sound like glass cracking. Then she walked away, clipboard in hand, barking orders at the string quartet about volume levels. Camille walked to the coat check closet. It was a narrow room near the service entrance. No windows. A single fluorescent light buzzed overhead. Wire hangers lined a metal rack that smelled like rust and old mothballs. She stepped inside and stood there for a moment, alone. The door was still open. Through it, she could see the banquet hall shimmering with golden light. She could hear the quartet playing something soft and classical. She could smell the roses from the centerpieces she had arranged that morning, the ones Sloane had called sloppy. She took one breath, then another. Then she pulled out her phone and opened her messages. One new message from Dorian. "Leaving now. See you soon." She read it twice. Then she put the phone away and hung the first empty hanger on the rack. Somewhere across the hotel, Malcolm Reeves was in the security office reviewing tonight's protocol. His radio crackled with updates, extra coverage for the main entrance, additional screening at the parking garage. Very important guest arrival confirmed. Malcolm pulled a printed photograph from a manila envelope, a headshot of Dorian Avery. He pinned it to the briefing board and circled it in red marker. "This is the chairman of the board," he told his team. "When he arrives, full protocol, main entrance, no delays. You address him as Chairman Avery." "Understood." 4 security officers nodded in unison. Back in the coat check closet, Camille heard Sloane's voice echo through the hall one more time. "If I see one fingerprint on one glass, somebody is going home tonight, and it will not be me." Camille hung another empty hanger on the rack. The wire scraped against the metal bar. She closed her eyes. She waited. The fluorescent light buzzed above her like a timer winding down. Outside, the string quartet shifted into something slower, deeper. The banquet hall hummed with final preparations, silver clinking, chairs adjusting, Sloane's heels clicking back and forth across the marble. In the parking garage, a black sport utility vehicle turned off the highway and headed toward uptown Charlotte. The driver checked the mirror. The man in the back seat adjusted his cufflinks. He looked out the window at the city skyline, catching the last light of evening. His phone sat on the leather seat beside him. The last text he had sent still glowed on the screen. "Leaving now. See you soon." He did not text again. He did not need to. Soon he would walk through the front doors of the Harrogate Grand. Malcolm Reeves would meet him with a firm handshake and 2 words that would echo through every radio in the building. And everything would change. I need to pause here, because this is the part that really gets under your skin. This woman was humiliated, sabotaged, shoved into a coat closet, and nobody said a thing. Not one person. That's silence right there. That is what hurts the most. The black sport utility vehicle pulled into the circular driveway of the Harrogate Grand. Its tires rolled slow and quiet across the polished stone. The headlights swept across the entrance, where Malcolm Reeves stood waiting, flanked by 2 security officers in dark suits. The rear door opened. Dorian Avery stepped out. He was tall, dark-skinned, dressed in a navy suit that fit like it was made for him. Silver cufflinks caught the last glow of sunset. He moved with the kind of stillness that only comes from knowing exactly who you are and exactly what you own. Malcolm stepped forward and extended his hand. "Good evening, Chairman Avery. Welcome to the Harrogate Grand." The words traveled through Malcolm's radio, through every earpiece in the building, through the front desk, through the security office, through the service corridor. Chairman Avery. At the front desk, a receptionist nearly knocked over her water bottle. In the kitchen, the head chef straightened his coat. In the hallway outside Warren Phelps's office, An assistant knocked on his door and whispered 2 words that drained the color from his face. "He is here." Warren stood so fast, his chair rolled into the wall behind him. He grabbed his jacket from the back of the door, shoved his arms through the sleeves, and half jogged toward the lobby. His tie was crooked. His hands were shaking. He squeezed them into fists to make them stop. In the banquet hall, the news hit like a shockwave. Sloan heard it through the event coordinator's radio. A crackle of static, then Malcolm's voice. "Chairman Avery has arrived. Main entrance. All positions." Sloan's eyes widened. She smoothed her hair. She adjusted her blazer. She grabbed a breath mint from her pocket and crushed it between her teeth. This was her moment. The chairman of the board, here tonight at her event. This was her chance to shine, to impress, to climb. She walked quickly through the service corridor, heels hammering the floor. She burst into the lobby just as Warren arrived from the opposite hallway. They exchanged a glance, 2 people suddenly united by the same desperate need to perform. Dorian was standing in the center of the lobby, Malcolm beside him, 2 security officers behind him. He was looking around slowly, taking in the marble, the chandeliers, the fresh flowers on the reception desk. His face revealed nothing. Sloan stepped forward first, bright smile, extended hand. Her voice pitched higher than usual, warm, eager, rehearsed. "Chairman Avery, what an absolute honor. I am Sloan Whitaker, Regional Banquet Manager. I oversee tonight's gala, and I have to say, everything is running beautifully. We are so thrilled to have you here." Dorian looked at her hand. He did not take it. His eyes moved past her, past Warren, past the reception desk, down the hallway, toward the service corridor, toward the narrow room near the entrance with no windows and 1 fluorescent light. The coat check closet. Camille was stepping out. She had heard the radios. She had heard the name. She stood in the hallway in her wrinkled, soda-stained polo, her name tag slightly crooked, her hands still raw from scrubbing trays. Dorian saw her, and something shifted in his face. Not anger. Not yet. Something deeper. Something slower, like watching a crack spread across glass before it shatters. He walked past Sloan, past Warren, past 2 security officers who stepped aside without a word. He crossed the lobby in long, steady strides. He reached Camille. He stopped. He looked at her shirt, the dark stain down the back, the dried streaks of soda on her collar, the smell of industrial cleaner on her hands. He put his arm around her gently, like she was the only person in the building. What happened? His voice was quiet, but in the silence of that lobby, it carried like thunder. Camille looked up at him. For the first time all day, her composure cracked, just slightly. A tremor at the corner of her mouth, a brightness in her eyes that she blinked away before it fell. "Long day," she said. "Tell me." Behind them, Sloan stood frozen. Her hand was still extended in the air where Dorian had ignored it. Her smile was still on her face, but it had gone stiff and plastic, like a mask that forgot to come off. Her eyes moved between Dorian and Camille, the arm around her shoulder, the closeness, the way he looked at her. Then the connection hit. Avery, Chairman Avery, Camille, Avery. The color drained from Sloane's face so fast it was almost visible, like watching ink disappear from paper. Warren's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. No sound came out. Dorian turned his head. He looked directly at Malcolm. "I want to know exactly what happened to my wife today, every single detail, and I want to see the security footage from this building. All of it." The word wife landed on the lobby like a bomb. Sloan took 1 step back. Her heel caught the edge of the marble tile, and she stumbled slightly. She caught herself on the reception desk. Camille looked at Sloan, calm and still, and for the first time that day, she spoke without being asked. "Naya has it on video." The security office was small, gray walls, 3 monitors, a desk covered in radios and clipboards. It smelled like stale coffee and electrical wiring. Dorian stood in the center of the room, arms folded, silent. Malcolm stood by the door. The hotel's human resources director, Marisol Bennett, sat at the desk with her hands clasped tight. Naya walked in holding her phone like a grenade. She unlocked it, opened the folder labeled Insurance, and pressed play. The first video. Sloane's voice, sharp and dripping with contempt. "I can't breathe the same air as this. The room feels dirtier every time she walks in." Dorian's jaw tightened. The second clip. Sloane holding up the rose from Camille's centerpiece. "Is that just not something your people prioritize?" Marisol covered her mouth. The third clip. Sloane watching Camille drag the 80-pound podium across the stage, alone, smiling. Then the final video. The soda. Sloane grabbing the cup, pouring it slowly down Camille's back. The liquid darkening her polo in a long streak. Sloane's laughter. "Now you match the mess you already are." Malcolm paused the video. Silence, except for the hum of the monitors. Dorian spoke one sentence. "Bring her in." Sloane walked through the door with her blazer buttoned, chin up, hands trembling at her sides. She tried a smile first. "Chairman Avery, I want you to know that tonight's event is completely under control. Whatever misunderstanding. Sit down." She sat. Dorian spoke the way a man speaks when the building has his name on the deed. "I just watched 4 videos of you harassing, humiliating, and physically assaulting a member of this staff. I want your explanation. Choose carefully." Sloane's smile collapsed. "It was. I was joking. The soda was an accident. She is blowing this out of proportion. I did not know. Did not know what? I did not know she was my wife." Dorian leaned forward. "So if she was not my wife, this would be acceptable." Sloane opened her mouth. Nothing came out. "That is what I thought." He turned to Marisol. "Effective immediately, Sloane Whitaker is suspended without pay pending a full investigation. I want every complaint ever filed against her pulled from the records, every one, and I want her off this property." Marisol nodded and began typing. Sloane's composure broke. Her voice cracked. "Please, I have given years to this company. This will ruin me. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. You did not make a mistake. You made a choice every single day." He turned to Malcolm. "Escort her out." Malcolm opened the door. 2 officers were waiting. Sloane stood on unsteady legs, mascara smudging at the corners. She walked between the officers, clutching her purse like a shield. The lobby staff watched in silence as she crossed the marble floor and pushed through the glass doors into the evening air. Dorian was not finished. "Where is Warren Phelps?" Warren was in his office, behind his desk, squeezing his stress ball with both hands. Dorian stood in his doorway. "How many complaints were filed against Sloane?" Warren swallowed. "A few." "How many?" 4 formally, maybe more informally." "And what did you do?" Warren stared at his desk. "That is your answer." Dorian nodded. "You are on administrative leave effective immediately, pending review. Formal notice from Human Resources will follow." Warren did not argue. He set the stress ball down and reached for his jacket. Dorian turned back one last time. "Next time someone tells you they are being mistreated, try listening. It is free." He walked back to the security office. Naya was still standing there, phone in hand. He stopped and extended his hand. "Thank you. What you did took courage. You have my word. No retaliation. Not now. Not ever." Naya shook his hand. Firm grip, steady eyes, one nod. Then Dorian walked down the hallway to the coat check closet. Camille was waiting. He took her hand. They walked together through the service corridor, past the kitchen, past the banquet hall, shimmering with golden light and string music. Neither said a word. They did not need to. The investigation started soon after. Dorian did not wait for Human Resources to schedule meetings. He did not wait for legal to draft memos. He picked up his phone and called the chief operating officer of Harrogate Hospitality Group directly. I want a full internal investigation. Not just this property. All 43. Every complaint filed involving discrimination, harassment, or hostile work environment. I want names. I want dates. I want documentation. And I want it on my desk. A team of investigators arrived at the Harrogate Grand. They set up in a conference room, laptop screens glowing, legal pads stacked, a digital recorder on the table. They started with Naya. She sat across from them in her server uniform, hands folded, voice steady. She told them everything. The comments, the reassignments, the way Sloan spoke to white employees versus black employees, the tone, the language, the looks. Then she handed over her phone. The investigators watched every video twice. After Naya, they interviewed more employees, current staff, former staff, people who had quit without explanation, people who had filed complaints that went nowhere. A housekeeper named Amani Porter told them Sloan once refused to ride the same elevator with her. She looked at me like I was contagious, Amani said. Then she waited for the next question. A former valet named Terrence Hayes said Sloan reported him for theft after he parked a guest car a few spaces away from the designated area. No theft occurred. He was fired anyway. No investigation. No appeal. A line cook named Keisha Vance described how Sloan walked into the kitchen one evening and said, in front of the entire staff, "Something smells wrong in here, and it is not the food." She was looking directly at the two black cooks on the line. 4 formal complaints, 12 informal reports, 3 resignations directly linked to Sloan's behavior. All documented, all ignored. Warren Phelps's signature was on 4 dismissal forms. His handwriting was on the notes that read, "Resolved, no further action needed." The pattern was undeniable. The story broke wide open. Naya posted the soda video on her personal social media with Camille's permission. She did not add commentary. She did not need to. The footage spoke for itself. Sloan's voice, the slow pour, the laughter. Camille standing there, soaked and silent. The video reached millions of views. Local Charlotte news picked it up first. A reporter stood outside the Harrogate Grand with a microphone, the hotel's gold logo gleaming behind her. Then national outlets followed. Cable news panels debated it. Opinion columns dissected it. The headlines spread across every platform like wildfire. Hotel manager pours soda on employee. Turns out she is the chairman's wife. Social media erupted. Comments poured in by the thousands. Former employees came forward publicly. People who had stayed silent for years suddenly had a platform, and they used it. Sloan's name trended. Her professional profile was flooded with messages. Her network collapsed almost overnight. Former colleagues distanced themselves publicly. One posted a statement that read, "I witnessed Sloan's behavior firsthand, and I regret not speaking up sooner." Sloan issued a public apology through a prepared statement. It was written by a crisis management firm. The language was careful, polished, and hollow. "I deeply regret any actions that may have caused harm. I am committed to learning and growing from this experience." The internet did not buy it. The top comment under every repost was the same. "She is not sorry she did it. She is sorry she got caught." The investigation concluded. Harrogate Hospitality Group released an official statement. Sloan Whitaker was terminated for cause, effective immediately. No severance, no reference letter, no option for rehire at any property within the company. Warren Phelps was formally demoted from general manager to assistant operations manager at a smaller property in a different state. His salary was cut. His authority was stripped. His name was removed from the Harrogate Grand's leadership directory. Both faced potential civil liability. Camille filed a formal complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The company's legal team cooperated fully, turning over every document, every video, every internal communication related to the case. Sloan was served with a civil lawsuit. The details were not complicated. Workplace harassment, racial discrimination, hostile work environment, intentional infliction of emotional distress. The evidence was overwhelming. The videos alone were enough. Sloane's attorney advised her to settle. She resisted at first. Then she saw the case file. Hundreds of pages of testimony, documentation, and footage. She settled. The terms were confidential, but the message was not. The ripple effect went far beyond one hotel. Dorian called a company-wide leadership meeting. Every general manager, every regional director, every human resources lead. A mandatory video conference that lasted long enough for no one to pretend this was a quick announcement. He stood in front of the camera in his office. No notes, no teleprompter. What happened at the Harrogate Grand was not an isolated incident. It was a systemic failure, a failure of leadership, a failure of accountability. And it happened because people in positions of power chose silence over action. He paused. That ends today. Harrogate Hospitality Group announced a complete overhaul of its workplace policies. Mandatory bias training for every employee, from executive leadership to housekeeping. An anonymous reporting hotline staffed by an independent third party. A zero-tolerance policy for discrimination with immediate investigation protocols. And one more thing. Dorian created a new position within the company, Vice President of Workplace Culture, a role designed to make sure that what happened to Camille, and to Amani, and Terrence, and Keisha, and every employee who suffered in silence, would never happen again. He offered the position to one person, Camille. She did not answer right away. She sat in their living room that evening, still in her jeans, still wearing the chain around her neck that held her wedding ring during work hours. She turned the offer over in her mind the way she had turned those napkins, carefully, deliberately, with precision. Then she said yes. Not because she wanted a title, not because she wanted power, because she knew what it felt like to stand in a coat closet with the door open, watching everyone pretend nothing was wrong, and she was done pretending. Later, Camille Avery sat behind a mahogany desk at Harrogate Hospitality Group headquarters. The downtown Charlotte skyline stretched outside her window, glass towers catching the morning sun, traffic moving in slow ribbons far below. On her desk sat a framed photo of her and Dorian on their wedding day, a small potted succulent Naya had given her on her first day in the new role, and a printed copy of the company's updated anti-discrimination policy. Every page had been reviewed by Camille herself, Vice President of Workplace Culture. The title still felt new, but the work did not. The work felt like breathing. Camille visited property after property. She sat in break rooms. She ate in staff cafeterias. She listened. Not from a boardroom, not from a conference call. Face to face, eye to eye. She heard stories that sounded exactly like hers. Different names, different cities, same silence. A bellhop in Atlanta who was told he sounded too black for the front desk. A housekeeper in Dallas whose schedule was cut every time she reported a safety concern. A server in Boston who watched a manager throw a plate at a busboy and call it motivation. Camille documented every story. She built a database. She created a reporting system that did not route through the same managers who caused the problems. Independent, anonymous, protected. Reports came in across the company. Investigations opened. Employees were terminated. Others were retrained. Some properties replaced entire management teams. The anonymous hotline received its first call from a young woman whose voice shook, but did not break. I do not know if anyone will actually do something, but I need to say this out loud. Someone did something. Naya Ellis was promoted to event coordinator at the Harrogate Grand. Full title, full salary, full benefits. She still kept her phone closed during shifts, old habit, but she did not need the insurance folder anymore. Amani Porter, the housekeeper Sloane refused to ride the elevator with, was offered back pay and a formal apology from the company. She cried when she received the letter, not because of the money, because someone finally said, "We believe you." Terrence Hayes, the valet who was wrongfully terminated, was contacted by Harrogate's legal team. They offered him reinstatement and compensation. He declined the job. He had moved on, but he accepted the apology. He said it was the first time anyone had admitted he had done nothing wrong. Sloane Whitaker never worked in hospitality again. Her name became a warning, the kind of cruelty companies now train employees to recognize. She moved out of Charlotte, deleted her social media, and disappeared into the kind of silence she once forced on others. Warren Phelps finished his demotion quietly. He managed a small property in a quiet town outside Richmond. He never dismissed another complaint. Whether he changed or simply learned to fear consequences, nobody could say for certain. Dorian continued to lead the company, but something shifted in how he led. He started every board meeting with a simple question. What are we not seeing? It became a company tradition, a reminder that the most dangerous problems are the ones leadership chooses not to look at. And Camille never forgot the coat check closet. She kept a wire hanger from that night in her office desk drawer, not as a trophy, as a reminder. The buzzing fluorescent light, the smell of mothballs, the sound of Sloane's heels clicking away. She kept it because she never wanted to become someone who forgets what the floor feels like. So this story is fiction. But be honest for a second. That feeling when your boss treats you like trash and everyone just watches, that is not fiction. That is somebody's life right now. And that is why this story matters. Most people who face what Camille faced do not have a husband who is the chairman. They do not get a viral video. They do not get a company-wide overhaul. They get silence. They get pushed out. They get forgotten. But that does not mean nothing can change. It means change has to come from the people watching, from the Nayas, the ones brave enough to press record, the ones who refuse to look away. If this story hit you somewhere deep, go ahead and hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss the next one. Because the real question is not whether this happens. The real question is, if nobody is recording, does anyone ever find out?